Hello and welcome to the first in a series of fly tying DVDs aimed at the beginner and improver to fly tying. The flies we've chosen cover a good number of the basic skills needed to tie a successful trout fly. These skills are demonstrated through tying various types of fly, for example the nymphs, wet flies and lures, and indeed to instill the importance of these basic techniques we have included a tips section at the end of the DVD. I hope from the flies chosen that you will gain a good knowledge of the craft of fly tying, and that the next time you see that trout rise in your favourite river or lake, you'll be casting to it with one of your own creations. The first fly we're going to tie today is the Black Pennell. It's the very first fly I learned in fly dressing over 30 years ago, and it's an excellent fly for teaching some of the very basic techniques to the beginner to fly tying. The first thing we do, we take our hook and we put it in the vise. We then take our black tying silk and we catch it in about 1/8 of an inch behind the hook eye. Catch it in by working the tying silk at an angle of about say 45 degrees and taking 5 or 6 turns down to the left or towards the bend of the hook. Cut off the excess tying silk and then proceed on down the hook with turns of tying silk just covering the whole hook shank. This forms a base for all the other materials you're going to tie in. Take the tying silk right down to a point that just where the bend starts, and the very first material we're going to tie in is a golden pheasant tippet feather. Now this feather, you can see on the sides of it, it's got lovely black markings along the top, but at the side they kind of get a bit sparse. So what we do is we cut off those pieces at the side like that, and then I use the better marked feathers. So we take a piece of tippet, and generally I take about probably about 6 to 8 fibres, cut them off and hold them up onto the hook shank in your left thumb and forefinger like that. We hold them up and we take about 1 or 2 very easy turns of tying silk over the hook shank like that. Another turn, and that just holds them in place. Now the length of the tail of this fly should be in a wet fly about maybe half the length of the body or the hook shank over the bend. This is maybe slightly longer, but I like to tie the tails of my flies maybe just that bit longer. So that's tied in with 2 or 3 turns of tying silk. Take 4 or 5 or 6 turns on up the hook shank like that and cut off the waste pheasant tippet fibres like that. Take your tying silk right down to the bend again, and then we tie in a piece of oval silver tinsel. Take off a piece of about maybe 4 to 5 inches, cut it off, and what I do here is present it up to the back of the hook like that, or the far side of the hook away from you. Take 1 or 2 easy turns of tying silk to hold it in position, and remember to take easy turns at this stage. Don't put much pressure on the tying silk or the tinsel's inclined to move away from you like that over to the far side. 2 or 3 easy turns, and once you've tied it in place, you then can increase the pressure a wee bit on the tying silk like that to hold it in place. Work your way up the hook shank, again fairly close even turns, biting down the silver oval, and we get to that position again about 1/8 of an inch behind the hook eye. At this stage, what I do is I take a piece of black floss. Now black floss comes in different strands. You can get 4-strand floss, 2-strand floss. This is a sort of a 2-strand floss. You just cut off a piece of about 4 or 5 inches, and we tie in the floss again at that position about 1/8 of an inch behind the hook eye like that. Tie it in with 1 or 2 easy turns, and then just pull the end of the floss through like that. Tighten up again with a couple of tighter turns, and then we work our way down the hook shank with the black floss to form the body of the fly. Work your way slowly down the shank, one turn in front of the other, and try to make as smooth a body as possible on the fly. Now as you come down to the tail of the fly, be careful not to go too far or that will distort the tail. So one turn right at the bend and then work your way right up the hook shank again like that. Close even turns to make smooth floss body. Now you're getting right up to that position again, just about 1/8 of an inch behind the hook eye. And at this stage I just hold the black floss in my right thumb and forefinger and take 2 or even 3 turns of the tying silk round the back of the black floss like that. Change hands with the floss and then take 2 or 3 turns at the front of the black floss like that. That's a secure way, especially for the beginner to fly tying, to tie in both floss and tinsel. Cut off the waist ends of the floss, and then we wind on the tinsel rib. So we take the oval tinsel like this and make the first turn up and away from the tail of the fly, and that stops it distorting the tail and making it sit down or sit sideways. So your first turn up the body a bit, the second turn again further up, and try and space the turns of oval silver as evenly as possible. About say 4 turns of tinsel. You can make 4 or 5 turns of oval tinsel on this is a size 10 hook, and just about 4 or 5 turns on that size of a hook. Hold the tinsel in your right hand and take the black tying silk round 3 turns at the back, as we did before, and 1, 2, 3, 4 turns at the front of the tinsel. We then snip off the tinsel as close as possible like that, and then with your nail you can then flatten out the tinsel like that and cover it over like that. Now take the hackle, and we use for this a rooster hackle or cock hackle, and we take one black hackle and you'll see at the front or at the base of the hackle here we've got a lot of flue. So what we do is we actually take the flue off like that, just strip it off at the base, that it's evenly stripped off on each side of the stalk. And then we take the hackle and we set it up. We notice the curve of the hackle like that, back over the back of the fly. And we tie it in, right in behind the hook eye like that, with say 3 turns, even 4 turns of tying silk. Don't be afraid to take, plenty of turns of tying silk at the start when you're just learning to tie flies, because it's better to tie things in securely than having them falling out or moving on you. Move the hackle forward with your index finger like that, and then really tighten up then. Put a bit more pressure on the bobbin holder like that on the tying silk and tighten up with the turns at the back of the hackle. We then take the hackle pliers, and the hackle pliers are just like a small spring, and they operate like that just by squeezing them between the thumb and forefinger, and catch the tip of the hackle in like that. Now when with that caught in, we basically wind the hackle round, and that makes the hackle fibre splay out. So we take 1, 2, say 3, 4 turns, one directly behind the other. Behind the other I mean wind them down towards the bend or the back of the fly. Change hands with the hackle pliers and tie in the tip of the hackle with 1 turn of tying silk like that. Then work your way through the hackle, and what I do is increase the pressure of the tying silk at this stage and work it back and forward, that no fibres are caught down when you're coming through like that. So 2 or 3 turns and you're right through at the front of the eye again. Take your scissors and cut off the tip of the hackle like that. And then you cut off the stalk of the hackle. Now at this stage, the stalk is sitting down beside the bobbin holder. So what I do is just put my thumb in there, and that holds the thread out of the way when you cut off the hackle stalk. So just cut off the hackle stalk, and then at this stage what I do is push the hackle fibres back with my thumb and finger like that, with the slope back. Hold them all back, and then we form the head of the fly. And we do that by just basically winding turns of tying silk right in at the front of the hackle, and form it by winding the tying silk from the eye of the hook back a bit over the base of the hackle fibres like that. Try not to make the head too big. It should be about enough. And then we take our half hitch tool. It's a half hitch tool come double needle. It's got a needle at this end and a small hole at the top of it, which ties the knot on the fly. So we take our tying silk and we make a circle round the half hitch tool like that. Slide it up onto the eye of the fly, and then tighten the knot by just putting a bit of pressure on the tying silk. Take another turn round the half hitch tool, slide it on, 2, and one final turn, slide it on, 3. So you have 3 half hitches now, or 3 knots on the eye of the fly, and that's enough. And then you just cut off your tying silk like that, and we have the fly nearly finished. There's just one more process to go, and that is to put some varnish on the head of the fly. And with this we again use this tool, the half hitch tool, come double needle, and with the point of the double needle we just take a small piece of clear varnish, and we set it on right on the eye of the fly. Keep it out of the eye of the hook, but just right on the black thread on the head. Now, what I do is I always put 2 coats of varnish on, but it takes about 2 or 3 minutes for the first coat to dry. So just varnish it and then let it dry, and then the second coat then makes a really lovely shiny varnished head on the fly. And that's the finished